then that Swadhyaya brings you to a state called Ishwara pranidhana. Ishwara pranidhana means the complete resignation. Now, this word pranidhana means some form of surrender. But this surrender is a little bit tricky. Resignation, surrender. Surrender doesn't mean that you become a non-entity. It doesn't mean that. It is a surrendering of your lower self and embracing a higher self. Very much related to the previous Swadhyaya. Union with the desired higher state, union with the higher state, that union is connected with surrender. So how to get united with? It's a form of surrendering. You surrender the ego, not to be a servant to that, but to be one. Surrendering to be one. Now, in all forms of higher interaction, the harmony comes when you are able to surrender to become one. You become one with that and the union takes place. So the union that takes place is based on harmony. In the context of yoga, since we are talking about yoga, when he talks about union, yoga means union, it means harmony. It doesn't mean that you become that absolutely. Have that confidence is where they say, surrender to your higher potential. Believe that you have all the potential that has ever existed in everyone who has ever existed in the world. Everyone who has claimed themselves as the son of God or the prophet or themselves God, that potential exists in you. And then you understand that that potential also exists in everybody else. But the error has been that they thought they were special. They thought they were the only ones who were special. There is an error in perception of those who have written down the teachings. Maybe they themselves did not feel it. Maybe they have uttered something else after that. They may have said that you too are capable of this, that you too can achieve this. But that you too was omitted. And they remain the only heroes and heroines. The rest are subservient. No, you cannot. You are not good enough. Therefore, the consciousness has never been allowed to evolve. Pranayama is after asana. Now, one asana. Why is this asana having been done? Pranayama is where the movements of inhalation and exhalation stops. But why in this particular sutra it talks about pranayama after asana? Why? And look at what is the definition of pranayama. No movement. There is no movement in the breath, right? Cessation, no movement, no inhalation, no exhalation. Totally not there. So if you look at this Pranayama means no movement of breath, meaning the asana has to be mastered first, right? Because if the body is moving, what will happen to the breath? It will be stimulated. Now if I am sitting still, I am able to observe the breath. Let's say I am sitting still, but there is a back pain. There's a back pain. Is there stillness? No more stillness. There is no stillness because the mind is affected by the pain. So you must make yourself completely comfortable. So it's not Sukha Asana that can bring about that. Maybe. It may be sitting on the sofa, but as you sit on the sofa, what is most important? The main criteria that you sit on the sofa or you are lying down on the bed, what is the main criteria? That you must be comfortable. Right? So you establish your comfort. And you have to move to the second component, which is absolute stillness. First, establish a posture which is comfortable, and when you are able to establish that which is comfortable, will you be able to remain still? Yes. Then comes pranayama. Then we are able to practice pranayama and breath stops, or breath seemingly feels to have been stopped. And when that happens, you would feel that you have never ever been so present as this time. That the presence of your mind at that moment has never been so clear ever in your life. That would be the culmination of pranayama. And pranayama has three kinds. One is the internal external. You have learned this. External breath. You exhale and hold the breath out. Inhale and hold the breath in. And then it becomes regulated by place, time and number. How many times you want to do, where you are doing it. It has to be a place which is conducive to do. And it has to be a time which is also conducive for you. That means the time and the place has to be conducive for you to feel comfortable in the asana. If it is not, then you may not feel. If the place is not appropriate, you may not be able to feel it. It may be in your home where you feel most comfortable, then you go ahead and do. It is a time when you are not rushing, then that is the time when you are able to do the pranayama. And then when the time and the place is correct, then we can work on the breath, the cessation or the kumbhaka becoming longer and subtle. And the final one, the final pranayama, chaturtha pranayama, the final pranayama is when we are able to just remain still in the asana, still, relaxed and able to observe that the breath has disappeared. No more. It has transcended. Very few people, unfortunately, would spend that time moving towards this. Very few people have the patience and the long-term view of life in practicing. Because of the restlessness, many people are engaged in rituals. They feel more comfortable in rituals, more movements, more doing something, more interacting, externalizing the senses. Very few people go into this kind of practice. I'm talking about a very rare movement towards the inner self. The whole world is moving externally because very few teachings are available which ask you to go inside. Many practices are available to move you externally, but the actual teaching of moving external is to bring about an internal process. All the rituals that are available is just allowing you an opportunity to bring your mind to a state of calmness and one-pointedness in order to induce you to an inner experience. But unfortunately, many of the rituals have become completely externalized and doesn't allow one to go inside. So the actual essence of rituals is to create an external attachment, but to bring about a state of concentration and relaxation where eventually you say that, okay, I've done all the rituals. All the rituals seems to make me feel more and more connected to an inner phase, inner state, where I think now after completing all the rituals, I want to close my eyes, sit in this one corner, become still and dive deep inside. Supposed to be like that, but you see what is happening in most of the rituals. We do the rituals and then we externalize, and then after that we clean up and then we move on, and then we spend more and more money in the rituals. So the money becomes a vehicle to maybe dissolve some of the things that we want to dissolve. Maybe you want to dissolve your karma, or you want to get some points in heaven. So all of those things are part of the rituals. But the actual component of ritual is to dive deep inside. You offer a flower, you offer a leaf, you offer water, you do this ritual, and then a simple ritual. At the end of the time, you want to close your eyes, you want to dive deep inside. You want the asana to be steady, you want your breath to be calm and prolonged, and you want to dive deep inside. And then at that time, you have felt, never ever felt, so connected with timelessness. Never ever so connected with the essence of what you are. And then you realize that, hey, maybe right now I come to a realization that all the changes that are taking place in my physical body, all the problems, health issues, whatever that is happening, the separation from my children, or the interactions between me and my spouse which doesn't seem to be perfect, or they're living in any country which doesn't seem to bring about the total happiness that you have been looking for, and you realize that everything external has never brought upon you the total happiness which you have been seeking, not now, not yesterday, not tomorrow, not 20 years later, not 50 years later. You speak to people who are 90 years old, 95 years old, at the end of their life, no one has ever achieved the total and permanent and perfect happiness, never looking externally. And maybe at that time when you are able to dive deep inside and transcend all of those things which are connected with the external senses, then you realize that there is a deeper dimension to my life, and it is not attached to this physical body which is constantly changing. And I don't want you to realize this when you are 80 years old. I want you to realize it right now. This is the moment to realize. Then you realize that realization is this: removing the covering. When the covering or the veil is removed, then we become clear. Right? So that which removes the veil, that removes the ignorance, is the vidya, the understanding. Then all these realizations leads to dharana. So we maybe some are practicing in the wrong way. That means they are practicing concentration. They are spending time on refining the techniques, but not understanding. It's not the hard concentration that we do that leads to realization, but the soft contemplations that we engage in that leads to dharana. That first the mind must be exhausted from its confusion, and that's where the contemplation or the vichara has to come in. So that we are at many moments thinking about diving deep, but we also must be able to differentiate between that which is rotating all the time with the same thoughts, the same concepts, the same awareness rotating. There is no breakthrough. We must be able to go beyond the orbit. That means if today I am thinking in this particular cycle, tomorrow I must bring in new thought patterns and new thought visions. And then the third day I must bring in something totally new. So you are constantly challenging and breaking the patterns. Otherwise, 5 years later, the person is saying the same thing. And you realize that he has not moved. The new thought patterns, new contemplation, new ideas have not come in. The new creative processes has not been allowed because one has become attached to that which has first inspired them. So the moment they come out of orbit and they capture one kind of thought pattern and they got stuck to that. They become so fascinated with that one particular point of view, which they feel that, it's such a great breakthrough that I have had, and I hold on to it, and I do vichara and viveka on this, contemplation and discrimination on this particular thought pattern, not realizing that 10 years it has been the same. Creative process has to be that I am performing vichara, contemplation on this. Next day, you must allow something else to come in. There must be a churning process, and when you churn, something new comes out, right? You cannot churn the same thing again and again. Why are we not looking at the outcome of that churning? Take that, and then you grow, and you grow, and you grow. Then, naturally, that process where you are churning and observing and churning and observing the new thought patterns, the new philosophy, the new concepts that are coming in, that is then dharana. That absorbs the mind. Just like Newton was found to have, history has it that he was found thinking for a few days. So that definitely is contemplation that led to dharana. And are we talking about him now? Yeah, we are talking about him because he found something which was very remarkable at that time. So that concept of dharana must essentially be accompanied with a relaxed state. Only when we have allowed ourselves to master relaxation, you can see the culmination of a new personality. A person who is totally able to relax themselves at all times and all places, or train themselves to do that, will be able to enjoy all moments, every moment. Doesn't matter if it is a 5-hour talk or 10-hour journey, they're able to become absolutely centered. It doesn't matter what kind of topic is being presented to them, where they are, how uncomfortable it is for others, but the person who has attempted to master the art of relaxation, 10 hours in the bus, they are still very steady and happy. Because some of the journeys, like when we travel in some of the groups, like last trip we had for 10 hours journey, so many people are uncomfortable, they are complaining, they are uncomfortable, they are complaining, they are not happy. But I see a few of our students who are very steady and still happy and enjoy, because I know they have mastered Pratyahara. You are sitting here, if you have mastered Pratyahara, then you are not thinking about the next moment. You are not thinking about lunch. You are able to think about this moment, you are able to enjoy yourself. So here, it's not Asana, it is Pratyahara. Only when Pratyahara, when you are completely relaxed, then Asana becomes enjoyable. Right now your sitting posture would become comfortable and so filled with happiness. You would be enjoying yourself right now in your Asana if you have had practiced Pratyahara. So the whole system of yoga seems to be moving towards happiness. When we go for holidays, what do we use? What word do we use? I want to relax. Saturday, Sunday, I can relax. Isn't that the notion of happiness? I want to go with my family to this tour. I want to relax. Bobby, relax. If we have mastered Pratyahara, then every journey is not about holiday. Even at home you feel relaxed. Even in class you feel relaxed. Even at work you feel happy because you are relaxed. So, when we completely analyze all the angas of yoga, I believe that Pratyahara seems to be a very, very important component of mastery. In fact, I would place it right at the top. That when you are relaxed, you are able to bring forth so much of transformation. Even in gatherings, in groups, I find that those who are not relaxed are the ones who create a lot of issues. In family gatherings, the person who is not relaxed is the one who is going to create chaos. Right? In business activities, the person who is not relaxed are the one who is going to complain. Because he or she is not relaxed, and when that happens, they are going to create a controversy and unhappiness. But the person who is relaxed is always bringing forth the best in that interaction. In your board meetings, when you are in meetings, when you are talking, don't you realize that the person who is most relaxed is the one person who is able to bring forth the greatest harmony and also some form of a positive interaction outcome? But if there is one person who is not relaxed, who is edgy, who is agitated, what happens to the entire group? What happens to that 20 people who are in the meeting? They wanted to find a purpose, they wanted to find a solution, but there is one person who is a bit agitated, and what is going to happen to the rest of the 19? Going to be disturbed, isn't it? So what then brings transformation is the relaxed person. The cool character. The cool character, the person who is most composed, is the person who is able to bring forth the greatest changes. Oh, we have completed chapter 2. Congratulations. Thank you.